Hey guys, welcome back to the series. I'm back on this series. It's been a while. I apologize. I'm just not the best at budgeting my time. A lot of work came in and just life in general. So I wasn't able to upload on the schedule I wanted to upload. But so to pick up where I left off, I wanna continue my tests of the app that we had under test, which is the libraries app. And I want to wrap this up. I won't be doing as much as I initially planned, which was to really like from top to bottom, front to end, test this whole app. What I'm just gonna do is because I looked over the series again, and I feel like I covered enough to get anyone started. And if I just do one more page under test using the same techniques and some additional techniques, then anybody that's trying to get started with WebDriver JS would be able to proceed on their own and continue on their own. And that would kind of be like your homework, like, continue testing the rest of this app, come up with your own test scenarios and your own methods, and expand on the page object pattern that I had started up in here. I'm a little sick, sorry, so I'll be clearing my throat a lot. So, all right. Now, it's been a while, so I just want to check that the tests still run Mocha. No errors. And it seems like it's still working. That's great. Yeah, that it seems like the app got slower. But yeah, so it works. It still works. That's good. That means that the locator strategy was good. It means that my tests are durable and reliable and not flaky if they can still hold up after a couple months of not being touched. So great. Basically, for the tests here that I have these three scenarios here. Typing a valid email changes button opacity to 1, enables request button, and triggers the confirmation alert. Little typo there. And when it comes to the home page, I think that covers the most important functionality of the home page, and that's enough for this page. So I can move on now to the next page, which is the libraries page. Now, in this page, there's a little more going on. You can list all the libraries. You can add new libraries to this list. You can filter them alphabetically, or yeah, you can filter them by name that you type. And I'm going to start by, I'm going to create a new file here. And the library page test.js, and I can just copy this and save. And I'm going to change the URL that I'm testing, and now the URL here would be libraries. Save. Okay, let me empty these. So this can serve as an outline for the page objects that I'll test. So obviously I'm not going to use the same scenarios. I'm going to create new ones for this. So libraries. So here are the scenarios I'm going to create for this page. First of all, this page should list the libraries. So now, let me just type that in here. It should list libraries. Second, once it lists, you immediately have this functionality here. So the list functionality and the add new. So it should be able to create a new library. should be able to add a new library. And then there's the sorting listing. Should be able to sort. It should be able to sort libraries. Right. Now with this outline, I can create a new page object, and in that page object, I'll have methods. I'll write functions that can assert, or that can go through the steps of whether it's listing or adding and interacting with the page, and then assert certain things in the actual test suite. So I have my base page, my home page. I'm going to create a new page in the lib folder. I'll call it libraries page. Cool. And so here I can do roughly the same thing. I can just copy and paste this. My selectors are going to be different, and my methods are going to be different. So I can kill all this, kill these. So I'm going to have a list libraries method, obviously. Add a new library. I'm going to have an add library method and a sort libraries method. So let me just comment those. List libraries, add library, sort libraries. Just to help keep me organized. I'm gonna need some locators for that. So what I did here was, back when I was still recording the series, I proceeded to go on to the next page, but then I stopped and then never picked it up again. So I actually had some locators here already. Library page, library item, add library. So what I can do is, I don't like this. Yeah, no, it's fine. So what I can do is, in the libraries page, I'm going to create a new method, page.prototype list libraries, and that will be a function. And all this needs to do, since we're just checking that there's a list of libraries, is it can just return this find. Actually, I have a find all method that I created in the base page. Find all method will wait to locate an element, wait up to 15 seconds, and once that's found, it will then find a whole array of elements that match the CSS selector, and then return those. So return those in a promise. So let me close this. I'm getting a little confused. Page. Okay. Put this in a separate window. Close that. So return this find all. And I think that's it. So the way I will call on this locator is the library item. Let me just double check that this is correct. So basically, I just want to grab whatever class one listing belongs to, and all the other listings will probably be part of the same class. And So here, library item. And if I didn't, I believe that's what all the other ones sit under as well. So if I use this extension I have called CSS selector tester dot library item, and boom, it's selected all the listings, and I won't accidentally include any other elements in by targeting that selector. So that's a perfect selector. So library item, so that stands the test of time. Var library item will equal selector library item. Great. I can just call it here library item. So now in my test here, I can just call on that method and can say var libraries will equal page, and the name of my method here is list libraries, so list libraries, and then I will say libraries should eventually, oh now see this, I have to check chai.js. Language change. So I want to check that there's a certain number. I don't want to say equal to, because then yeah, I could just say should eventually libraries should eventually equal, no, libraries length or something should eventually equal a certain number, but the number of libraries changes all the time. I just need to make sure that at the very least a certain amount is listed. So so I can check the API here. Targets length. Expect to have length of, cool, and right here length above. So the above assertion above. So what I can do, I'm a little rusty, it's been a while. I don't it's weird putting myself back in the headspace to do this, because it's like I'm starting over again from the beginning. So libraries, I'll say libraries should eventually have length above, and I'll say 10. I think that should work. Comment those out, and I'll save this here, and we do Mocha. That's weird. The second window, it opened it in on my other screen. I'm not sure what's going on right now. It just opened up a bunch of browsers. Page list libraries is not a function. I exported the page, calling the page here. Let me try Mocha test list libraries. No, library page test. List libraries is not a function. So I definitely did add this function to the prototype. Return this final item. And that's because I made a rookie mistake. Libraries page. Right. Apologies for that. Now this should work. Yep, passing. So length above 10. Let me see. Let's say length above 530. Just to make sure I'm not getting a false positive. Yeah, and so now I can verify that this test will fail because it is actually checking the length. So expected to have a length of 530, but got 28. There are only 28 libraries, not 530. So I'll keep this at 10. Cool, and I can clear this out now. And now I can move on. The next page I think this app got slower. So the next page will also contain a method for adding a new library. So basically I'm just going to click here and then fill this out and create. And once Boulevard 555 1 2 3 4 create, and then it immediately brings me back to this page. So then I can just grab the container for this whole thing, grab the text. It will grab all the text, the container, and then make sure that it includes the string that I used to create the new library. So let's create a new method, page prototype, add library, and basically, so I'm going to need a fake library name, a fake library address, and a fake library phone number. So let me create my vars. Var fake library name will equal this fake, and I already have it here, library name, because I have it in my fake data. Created a library using Faker. If you remember, we went through installing Faker and using its methods to generate fake data. So the library name will basically be like Conquer, since the channel is Conquer.js. Basically, I just call a city. So Faker address.city, that will generate like some random city name. And then I added these to it, so I know that I made them. So it'll be like Conquer Chicago Library, and that'll be the name of the library. So our fake library name, var fake library address. That'll be this dot fake address. I'll just create a fake address and var fake library phone, and that'll be this fake phone. Okay, now what I need to do is find the button to create a new library. And do I have it in my locators? Add new. Create. Oh man, I don't like string. These strings so. That's why this doesn't really have any. Oh, but okay, this doesn't really have any class to it, and this is basically an unnamed anchor tag, and it is nested in a list element that has a dynamically generated ID, Ember ID. So this is going to change. So that's why I have to like find this long path for it. But for a link, there's actually method link by link text. Yeah. So in the by object, there's the link text method. So you can say find element by ID, by CSS, by tag name, by XPath, and by link text. Locates the link elements whose visible text matches the given string. So in that case, I'm going to. Oh, I actually already had that. So find link. This is basically the same as find. So in my base page here, where I have these global methods that I'm going to call throughout my page objects, I have find and find all, and here's find link, which is basically the same, except that it's wait until element located by link text, and then find the element, single element by link text. So now I can say this dot find link, and the link text was add new, and then just click it, and that will click. That will click this and bring this up, and then I can just target these. So now I'm just gonna write in each input. So this write and locators. So I'm gonna write library name in name input. I'm gonna write the address in address input and phone in phone input. So I can put these up top here. Basically, our library name will equal selector dot name input, var library address will equal selector dot address input, and then var library phone will equal selector dot phone input. Okay, save that. Then here, when in my write, my write function, can say so this write fake right. Oh, first it needs to find the element and then the string. So write in library name fake library name, and then I can do this again and again. So right and just do like that. Library address, fake library address here, and select the next one, and then library phone, fake library phone. Okay. And then it needs to click on the create button. Have it here. Create BTN. So var create BTN will equal selector dot create BTN, and this find create BTN, and click it. Cool. So this should fill out everything. This should click the link to bring up the forms, the inputs, fill them out, and then submit. Now, once that happens, let me actually go back here to be able to add a new library. So now, just to test this out, I'm gonna just make this scenario run that function. Here, add library, comment this out, test this, save this here, Mocha test library page. All right, dot test. And it did it. That was really quick, very good. So once it does that, though, it brings you right back to the main list. So then what I want to do is I want to grab that, grab container that contains all these elements. So this row here, is that will contain all the libraries. And if I just call the get text method on this container, it will grab all the inner text from each sub element. So it's convenient. So now this method will have to return something and make my assertion. And what it will return is the library list. And I'll say this find library container here. I have this find library. I'll put that up here. Var library container will equal selector dot library container. Great. And then I should call get text. So this find library container and get the text. I'll grab the text of everything in the container, and then library name. In that text, I want to find the library name, and that's the fake library name. So now here I can store this in a variable. Var add library will equal page add library, and then I will say, so add library dot library list should eventually contain add library library name. Cool. So think this is good. This should work. Test it out. Yeah, it passed. Nice. Well, okay, just to make sure I'm not getting a false positive, let me put in a random string. I'll just make that the string there. And test again. And now it should fail, but explain to me why it's failing. Nice. Insertion error expected this entire string to include this substring here. All right, so this does work. Now for the final test, should be able to sort libraries. So here, prototype dot sort libraries, and that will be a function. So what I'm gonna want to do is, when I create a new library, I want to look for it and be able to find it here. Like Conquer, and these are all the libraries I've created. So should be pretty easy. So this is how I'm going to test this. I'm going to create a new library and then look for it in the using the filter option. Filter, I'll call this filter library. And so I will create a new library name. So since I already have this function here that will create a library, I don't need to do this again. I can just call it in here. So, and that means I'm gonna need to actually change this function a bit. I'm going to give it a parameter, desired name, and basically it could either just create a library this way, or if I pass it a desired name, it will create a library with the name I define here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to library name. I'm going to decide on a library name here. It'll be a fake method or something. So fake library name, and then add library with, do it like this, library name, add library with fake library name passed in as a parameter, and then I can say write, and that would be fake library name, and then so basically I will write in the input. So yeah, filter libraries. I'll create a fake library name. I'll add a library with that name, and this should, once this function that I'm going to put in here, once it clicks on the button, that library should be created. So then I can call the write method to write the library name stored in the variable here and look for it. And then I'm going to have to basically have to run a similar assertion to this one, where I'm going to grab the container text and make sure that this newly fake library name is in there. All right, so var new library, and that will be this fake library name. Add library. So this add library. And that will be what's in this variable. So to make this work, this will accept a parameter, and then if I'll just tell it, I'll just say I'll make this equal nothing. I'll just initialize this, and then if there is a desired name, then the fake library name will equal the desired name. Else, you generate one. Fake library name will equal, there you go. And that should take care of it. So if you pass in a name that you want, it will make this variable equal to it. Otherwise, it will create a new one. And either way, this won't destroy anything here. It will just take in whatever string, whether you specified it or whether it was randomly generated. So this add library, new library. So here I'm going to generate a fake library name and store it in this variable, and pass it as a parameter here. So it will create a new library with that name. And then I can say this write have input filter here. So I have this selector. This is the selector, and I basically am using within the CSS selector. I'm making it find by the placeholder attribute. So put placeholder and has this text in the placeholder. So that's how I'm identifying it. Locator, it's locator. So here, just do it here. So selector dot input filter, and in it I'm going to write the new library, and that's it. All the steps are completed to generate the new library and to filter. And now I'm going to return the library list again. So I probably just copy and paste, and put that here. It'll be the new library. New library. Awesome. So now let me get rid of these comments. So filter libraries will create a new library. No, it'll generate a new library name, create a new library with the new library name. Then it will find the input filter that filters libraries based on what you type, and it will type in the new library that's up here. And then it's going to return the text contained in the container that contains all the libraries, and it's going to return the fake library name that I created here, and it's going to check, and then I can assert here in my test that pretty much what I did here, that the library list will contain the library name. So do this var libraries equals page dot filter libraries, and then libraries library list should eventually contain libraries dot new library. All right, Mocha, let's do this. Let me comment this out. I think this should just work, no issues. All right, damn it. Specified just this file. So now it ran through these tests before it hits this file with created test. Now it's checking I just made and cannot read properly eventually of undefined. Typo here. Mocha test library page dot test. Ooh, it did it. Nice. So now I decided on these three. I'm doing 3 for 3. So in the first page, the home page, I asserted 3 things, and in this page, I'll assert 3 things as well. And I'll leave it up to you guys to, if you want, for example, to assert that this works, that you can sort alphabetically. Right? Here are all my conquer libraries, all the libraries I've conquered, and then you guys can go ahead and write page objects for the authors, for the books. Very cool. So now let me run the whole test suite again. What I have so far, at least. So it's testing the home page. Oh, let me stop this real quick. Oops. Because I don't like, I'm gonna describe library app scenarios. So I'll say home page. Landing page would be better, but I already called a page object homepage. So library app scenarios homepage, and then here describe library app scenarios, library listing. Okay, and now Mocha, run the whole thing. So right now the browser is running on my other screen for some reason. For some reason, 2 of those seem to run on my actual laptop screen and not on my screen. But yeah, it ran every test and they all passed. Cool. So that will wrap up this video. One thing though I want to bring up, and that's bothering me, is you saw how long that took. We're just asserting 6 things. These are 6 tests, and they took 33 seconds. If you have more of these tests, which you will if you continue testing the rest of the app, then you can see how this starts to take a while. Part of the problem is that we're spinning up a browser every time. So in the next video, I'm going to whip out Chrome Headless, which is the new headless browser by Chrome. Usually Phantom.js is used, but Phantom.js is not maintained anymore. The owner of Phantom.js just stopped maintaining it because he doesn't feel like there's a need for it anymore. And Chrome Headless is now the new solution, kind of, to these problems. So in the next video, I'm going to use Chrome Headless and see if that can help speed up the tests. See you in the next video, guys. Thanks.